This movie starts in a dystopian world consisting of genetically mutated plants. Every animal has died out of existence, and no traditional food sources are left for humans. The only place with enough resources is a city named Citadel, but only a limited population is allowed into the enclosed city. Moreover, the seeds formed in this place can only grow once and doesn't reproduce on its own. With no food left, it is the main source of nutrition for humans. Citadel is run by powerful people who like control. Hence, to serve the city and its citizens, they have created human-like robots named jugs, designed to lack free will and emotions. In such a harsh environment, a 13-year-old girl named Vesper lives alone in a faraway jungle, taking care of her sick father, Darius. The two communicate using a genetic drone that Darius controls. He is able to see, hear, and talk through it, which makes Vesper feel less lonely. She lives her life on repeat, following the same schedule every day. Her routine consists of looking for food, taking care of Darius, and visiting an abandoned lab once in a while to perform experiments on plants. Most people in this world are into genetic engineering and biochemistry. Likewise, Vesper is a self-taught biochemist, hoping to bring back nutritional plants on Earth. Her father doesn't like her wandering around the lab because it is unsafe, but he can never convince her otherwise. One morning, on a similar venture, the two come across a pilgrim gathering junks. Rumors say that the pilgrims are diseased people who wander around collecting junk for an unknown reason. Vesper is curious when they take the junk, but Darius doesn't let her investigate. A year ago, his wife left home in a similar circumstance, which is why he is extra protective of his daughter. While spying on the pilgrim, Darius hears a noise coming from their house. Upon running back, they see that someone has sabotaged their generator that keeps Darius alive. Vesper quickly fixes the pipes, but she needs to get a new battery immediately. The only person who can help them in times like this is Darius's brother Jonas. He is an evil man who exploits children and breeds them for their blood. With the said blood, he trades food and seed with the people of Citadel. Vesper reaches his place to see a child stuck under a broken structure. He cries for help while Jonas and his kids sit around, waiting for him to die. When Jonas feels bad for the kid, he makes another one stab him to death. The scene is disturbing to everyone present there, but no one dares to speak against their master. Vesper is welcomed and asked to trade his blood for the batteries. She does as told, but later finds out that she will get the batteries only after a day. Vesper begs Jonas for help, knowing that her father cannot survive that long. However, Jonas remains adamant. It turns out that he wants Vesper to be one of his minions and wants her to suffer because she refuses to obey him. Vesper tries running away with her blood, but Jonas catches her in the act and kicks her outside. Not wanting to give up, Vesper waits for a while, then breaks into Jonas's farm. She regrets it instantly after seeing the dead kid being torn apart for his blood. Ignoring the disturbing sight, Vesper walks into the storage where she bumps into one of Jonas's minions. He ignores her, knowing that she is not a bad person. Vesper steals some batteries and a seed from Jonas's collection before escaping. On the way back home, she notices a pod from Citadel flying overhead. It must be going to Jonas to trade seeds for blood, but Vesper has more pressing matters to tend to. By the end of the day, she brings the batteries back to her father, saving his life. The next morning, Darius sees the seed and asks Vesper where she got it from. She makes up a lie, but cannot fool her father. They get into an argument, causing Vesper to run away in anger. This is when she comes across an injured girl lying in the middle of the jungle. She has several gooey creatures sucking blood from her leg, indicating that she has been lying there for at least a night. Vesper assumes the pod from yesterday must have crashed and the unconscious girl was in it. She helps the injured, picking the creatures out of her body. At home, she makes her wear a bacterial band-aid that accelerates the healing. The next morning, the injured girl wakes up in a frenzy, looking for her father. It turns out that she was in the pod with her father, who was still somewhere in the jungle. She even promises to take Vesper and her father to Citadel if they help her find her father. Vesper desperately wants to be a part of the Citadel and live a better life. Hence, she agrees to give it a chance, even though her father is against the idea. That night, Vesper makes worms and broth for dinner and talks to the new girl. She introduces herself as Camellia, a member of the city of Citadel where all facilities are abundant. As they chat, Darius starts getting a seizure. Vesper panics, but Camellia comes to her aid and kisses her father. Interestingly enough, Darius clams down and goes back to sleep. Camellia reveals that everyone from the Citadel has such powers provided by genetic engineering. They have made several big biotech discoveries, but haven't been able to recreate the extinct self-sustaining plants. The next morning, Vesper goes to look for the missing pod and Camellia's father. Deep into the woods, she finds him alive. However, just as she is about to help him, Jonas and his army of kids arrives. Jonas despises anyone from Citadel and doesn't want the man alive. Vesper cries and begs him to consider otherwise, but her uncle chokes Camellia's father to death. Later, Vesper returns home and tells Camellia she didn't find anyone in the woods. She wants to keep Camellia safe now that Jonas is looking for the second passenger in the woods. Vesper has finally started to trust the new girl. She tells her about her interest in biotechnology and brings her to her personal garden. Camellia is shocked because the 13-year-old girl has cultivated a Citadel-level garden in the middle of the woods. It has plants that are never seen before, even the ones that might be able to reproduce on their own. Camellia praises the little girl and reveals that her father is also a genetic engineer. He would love to see Vesper's work and take it to Citadel for further experimentation. Vesper thinks to herself that this would never be possible, but she still doesn't tell Camellia about her father's death. Upon returning home, Vesper tells Camellia that her mother used to sing really well. One day last year, she woke up and had lost her voice. 2 days later, she ran away following a pilgrim. Hence, Vesper believes that a person becomes a pilgrim when they are infected with a virus. She also knows about jugs and how they are used to serve the people of Citadel, but she thinks that Citadel would be a better place if they allowed humans to serve people instead of genetically modified jugs. Camellia explains that Citadel likes control, and jugs who have no free will are easier to control than other humans. For the rest of the night, Vesper and Camellia read a book about ancient animals like cats and dogs. The next day, Vesper and Darius's drone go into Jonas's farm again to get more batteries for the generator. Darius goes in first, but is caught. Vesper goes behind it and sees the drone being tortured by Jonas. He has found out about the last theft and killed the kid who was supposed to guard the farm then. Vesper looks at her uncle in fear as he destroys her father's drone, sabotaging the only way she communicates with him. By now, he suspects that the extra passenger from the pod is also with Vesper and asks her about the matter. Vesper nervously shakes her head in a no, but the man doesn't buy it. When he is distracted, she runs away with the drone. Jonas sends his minions behind her, who run around and eventually catch her. Vesper screams in fear as they place a hot metal on her, marking her as Jonas's property. When left alone, Vesper returns home and starts trying to fix the drone. She doesn't say a word to Camellia before suddenly bursting into tears and hugging her. After a while, she calms down and tells Camellia about her father. They go to a pond in the woods where her father's corpse is afloat. Camellia breaks into tears and screams, hugging her father's lifeless body. Vesper brings her outside to calm her down, but happens to see a mark on her back while doing so. These marks are identical features of a genetically modified jug. Vesper is shocked because this means that the person she has been sheltering for this long is not even human. However, she is confused because jugs are supposed to be nothing but robots, and Camellia is definitely not one. The jug finally reveals that her father was her creator, and he committed a serious crime by giving her intelligence. When their pod crashed, they were flying away from Citadel because Camellia's father was about to be convicted for creating her. Vesper realizes that Camellia was never going to bring them back to Citadel and was using her to get to her father. She pushes the grieving girl and returns home to her father. After the drone is fixed, Darius reminds his daughter that jugs are supposed to obey their masters. Hence, Camellia was doing her job as one. Outside, Camellia returns home and tries to stab herself before being stopped by Vesper. She no longer wants to live without her father, but Vesper stops her and gives her a new reason to stay alive. She shows her a miracle plant that was the first sample to reproduce on its own. Vesper is still to work on it and make it perfect, but this means there is a chance the world will go back to its normal form. Later, she inspects Camellia's DNA and finds codes of plant DNA encrypted within her. When taking a closer look, it turns out to be a way to fertilize the one-time growing seeds to make more seeds. Camelia's father had made the great discovery, which is why he was being pursued by the higher officials of Citadel. With this information in hand, Camelia and Vesper decide to go to Citadel and enter it with a refugee status. There, they plan to shed light to the discovery and end all current world problems. Vesper goes to the lab to retrieve some important stuff, but before she returns, Jonas arrives at their home. He sees Camelia and instantly recognizes her as the other passenger from the pod. At first, he tries to manipulate her into giving up. Camelia, in turn, tries to seduce him, but Jonas doesn't buy her tactics. Eventually, Vesper returns and a struggle ensues. The girls manage to stab Jonas's hand into a table and calm him down. Vesper can easily end his life, but decides otherwise. She tells him about her plan, asking him to join hands with him. Jonas thinks about it for a while, but returns home without responding to the proposition. We find out that the Citadel had contacted him and tasked him to find the intelligent Jug. He gives them a call, telling them about Camelia. A few hours later, a strange sand wave enters the house, ensuing panic. Vesper and Camelia climb up a table, but are surrounded by the sand from all sides. Seconds before they are about to be touched, the wave stops. The two think they are safe, but in reality, the sand has located Camelia, which means an army from Citadel will soon be here to look for her. Camelia says they have to get away from the house as soon as possible. However, they cannot take Darius with them. Vesper doesn't want to leave her father behind, but he makes her understand that she has to take the difficult road this time. In the end, Vesper and Camelia pack their bags and leave. They are not far away when an army from Citadel arrives at their home and blows it up. Vesper sees it going up in flames and tries running back before Camelia stops her. Somewhere else, the rest of the people from Citadel arrive at Jonas's quarters to kill him, not wanting to leave any trace of their wrongdoings behind. Likewise, the people also find Vesper and Camelia in the woods, giving rise to a chase. Vesper, who knows everything about woods and the plants, uses her knowledge to their benefit. However, the two are bound to be found one way or the other. Camelia also knows this. Therefore, she suggests she turn herself in so at least Vesper gets to live. Vesper begs her to reconsider, but Camelia makes her decision and separates from her new best friend. The next day, Vesper wakes up and has no one left by her side. With a heavy heart, she goes back to the remains of her home and gets the only remaining seeds that were burned outside. Jonah's minions also join Vesper and follow her towards the lowland where the pilgrims reside. In the last scene, Vesper reaches the Tower of the Pilgrims. She doesn't talk to anyone before climbing up the tower and getting a full view of the city of Citadel. The last scene shows us Vesper blowing the seeds away, setting on a new goal for herself to avenge her father's death.